When someone brings up a boxer in Street Fighter, the uncouth and unclassy Balrog inevitably comes to mind first, but Capcom also designed an antithesis character to Rog in the form of the highly refined and well-mannered ultimate gentleman, Dudley. The much more proper pugilist is easily one of the coolest and most charismatic characters in all of Street Fighter, and yet has only popped up as a playable character in two main entries, Street Fighter 3 and then Street Fighter 4. In these two games, Dudley's story threads are somewhat light and even a little bit arbitrary, but they do showcase his personality, which is so defined by convictions and admirable qualities that it's hard to be anything but charmed by him. Just like the soil in his flourishing rose gardens, Dudley's design is a perfect foundation for plenty more appearances and character arcs, and developers would do well to bring him back into the fold as soon as possible, as his speedy and combo-filled fighting style is as fun to watch as it is to play. Let's take a look back at the character's history and speculate how he might look if he joined SF6 as DLC as we recap Dudley's full story leading up to Street Fighter 6. Dudley was born to a wealthy English family with a father who was initially a mega successful athlete transitioned into a mega successful businessman. Dudley knew from day one that he wanted to be a fighter, but was unfortunately relatively small and scrawny. His ever-supportive father breaks the news that he's too small to fight and will never achieve his dreams.
I am starting to think that maybe you don't believe in me.
I do believe in you. I just know you're gonna fail.
And that same father then promptly goes bankrupt as he proceeds to lose both his business and the family fortune. This all happens around the time that Dudley is in college and sets the stage perfectly for a nice little scrawny but determined underdog with something to prove to his parents story arc. Though he's at a clear deficit when it comes to weight, Dudley puts all of his skill points into the speed and technique branches of his skill tree and eventually becomes so successful at boxing that he's able to restore his family's entire estate, save for one prized possession, his father's antique red Jaguar. Dudley becomes known as the boxing champion of England and pretty much has it all as he lives in a mansion with his faithful butler, Mr. Gotch. He spends his time tending to his massive rose gardens and maintains his impeccable air of gentlemanliness at virtually every moment, but continues to be haunted by his father's missing car. Which, to me, sounds like it's about more than just the car.
For me, this is a dad issue. Dad issue! Dad! Dad be dad! Daddy didn't love me!
Now, Street Fighter 4 actually takes place before Street Fighter 3 on the chronological timeline, and so it's here that we technically first meet Dudley as a playable character. He receives an invitation to the World Warrior Tournament being put on by the Shadaloo Intimidation Network, and though he's not impressed by the invitation's lack of social graces, he decides a journey to the tourney would be worth it as it would provide both a means of getting some fresh roses for his garden and getting his mind off of the Jaguar. While attending, Dudley encounters Balrog for the very first time, and it goes down something like this.
Can I help you, sir?
You mean to tell me this little whip is supposed to be the British champ? You gotta be kidding. Hey, take me on, Will.
Does your rudeness know no bounds, sir? Very well, then. Far be it from me to turn down a challenge. And for a fellow pugilist.
And did you notice that win quote, by the way? In his faithfulness in being the ultimate gentleman, Dudley refuses to insult even his most evil of rivals, but makes a slight exception here. The statement wherein he calls Rog not much of a boxer is regarded as the one time up until this point that Dudley breaks his own rules and volleys an insult. Now, he does wind up getting a little more aggressive in this department later on in Street Fighter 3, calling opponents things like gutter trash, sissy man, and ill-mannered goon after he defeats them. Dudley isn't mentioned in the general Street Fighter 4 story as he was added post-launch during the Super update, and thus his performance in the tournament isn't detailed at all. He eventually returns home, having not even been able to procure the new roses he was after.
I was unable to procure the new roses I was after.
He prepares for his 4 p.m. tea time with Mr. Gotch, a practice he partakes in daily and never misses, and notices a single white wild rose growing in his garden. He proclaims how no matter what great strides mankind has made in design, nothing compares to the beauty of a natural flower. And that's pretty much it for Street Fighter IV. Some years later, the events of Street Fighter III start unraveling, and Dudley has discovered the whereabouts of his father's car. It had made its way onto the black market and was purchased by Gil, the leader of the Illuminati and evil boss of Street Fighter III. As is a requirement for all main antagonists in Street Fighter, Gil is putting on a World Warrior fighting tournament, and so Dudley sets off to join the tourney and get the Jaguar back. If you beat the game with Dudley, it shows him having defeated Gil and the Illuminati boss giving his car back. This all takes place in Second Impact, much of which is either retconned or kind of exists in a vacuum by itself. While it's more likely that Gil was simply impressed by Dudley's skills and chose to give the car back, in any case, the final piece of the estate is finally back in Dudley's possession. He's seen driving home, with his gloves still on, of course, actually breaking the steering wheel off and reattaching it in his ending. In Third Strike, Dudley is now in full possession of the Jaguar as it's part of his pre-fight entrance. At this point, he's been knighted by the Queen and invited to participate in a contest in front of the royal family. Wanting his performance in front of the Queen to be perfect, he decides to prepare by traveling the world and fighting, and this is his justification for his bouts with the other characters in the game. He returns home and gets lost in his gardening, but is reminded by Mr. Gotch that the royal contest is starting in just 5 hours' time. Dudley rushes back to his mansion to prepare, and that's really the last we've seen of him. Well, save for a cameo of him and Mr. Gotch in the background of a cafe during one of Cammy's cutaway scenes in Street Fighter VI's World Tour mode. So, what might Capcom do with Dudley if they were to bring him back for Street Fighter VI? He's been characterized with themes of perfection and uprightness, but is also reminded that no matter how much one tries to control something, nature always finds a way to mix things up. Well, there's another new character who also abides by a certain gentlemanly code, as well as a sense of pristine orderliness, and that's the new big bad guy, JP. Though one is clearly good and the other clearly evil, there's a good bit of overlap these characters could mingle over, and considering how JP is a master of both deception and secret infiltration, it might be interesting to see him make an attempt at corrupting Dudley. Maybe JP is in dire need of funding following the events of World Tour mode, and aims to persuade the boxer to fund his next evil scheme. The two could meet, and we might see JP disarm the unsuspecting Dudley with some knowledgeable comments about his Jaguar, leading to the pair becoming friendly. Slowly but surely, JP turns Dudley away from his alliances with Team Good Guys as they bond over tea time and gentlemanly discussions. Like the one wildflower in the rose garden from the ending of SF4, JP plants a single seed of chaotic evil in Dudley's mind. Dudley might showcase his growing transformation by continuing to grow more aggressive and hateful with his insults after fights, just as he's done over the transition from SF4 to SF3. This aggression might also come to fruition in Dudley's fighting style as perhaps he begins to use a few less than gentlemanly techniques such as headbutts and low blows, adding to his overall arsenal of in-game attacks. Of course, Dudley would likely come around and see JP's true intentions, though perhaps after at least some damage has been done to both his bank account and reputation. Really, we just want to start landing some cross counters and corkscrew blows in Street Fighter VI, and given Dudley's history as a combo monster, one can only imagine the possibilities once he's paired with a drive rush mechanic. Let us know in the comments if you want to see Dudley in Street Fighter VI, and if you were educated or entertained by this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more character histories like this one. I've been John Velociraptor Guerrero for EventHubs. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.